Guys, so here we are in section 3.2, which is all about cell organelles. Remember, organelles were the tiny little parts or the tiny organs that make up a cell. So we call them organelles because they are like the little organs of our cells. So we're going to learn about all the different types of organelles today and their functions, the jobs that they do. So our key concept is eukaryotic cells share many similarities. We have a lot of vocabulary. We have cell membrane, cytoplasm, cytoskeleton, nucleus, ribosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, lysosomes, vacuoles and vesicles, centrioles and centrosomes, and cell wall and chloroplasts. Our main idea is eukaryotes contain many organelles that perform various functions, and plant cells contain a few organelles that animal cells do not. So basically what you are going to learn, and you need to start to memorize these, are what organelles do eukaryotic cells contain, and then what are their functions, so what jobs do they do. And the second part of this is what organelles do plant cells have that animal cells do not. So you remember, we learned about prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells in the last presentation. Remember, prokaryotes, some examples were bacteria. Very simple, don't contain a ton of organelles. But our eukaryotic cells, which are plants and animals, fungus and protists, contain a lot more complex parts, a lot more different things. They have a lot more organelles. So we are going to learn about all of them and their functions today. So here we are, eukaryotic cell organization. Eukaryote cells contain many organelles. And remember, I told you organelles are the little parts that make them up. I already went through this, so we're going to learn about all the organelles and their functions. And if you look at those pictures, I have our animal cell and our plant cell, so we're going to learn some differences between the two. Now, cells have little structures that give them boundaries and little internal structures for support. So all cells, what surrounds the outer part of the cell is called the cell membrane. Inside the cell, we have the cytoplasm, which is the jelly-like fluid that holds everything together. And then we have the cytoskeleton. Just like we have a skeleton that gives us support, our cell also has a skeleton that helps to make its shape. Now, all of those things there, like I said, the cytoskeleton helps to support and shape the cell. It also helps to position and transport organelles. It provides strength. It does assist in cell division, and then helps with some cells as they move through different areas. The nucleus, you've heard the nucleus before. The nucleus is super important. It's where our DNA is located. Remember, prokaryotes did not have a nucleus, so this is a big characteristic that eukaryotes have. The DNA contains all the instructions for building proteins, and we can kind of think about it like the brain of the cell. It has all the instructions to make the cell do what it needs to do. We have other organelles that are involved in making and processing proteins, and so our other important structure are ribosomes, and ribosomes actually make the proteins. We have the endoplasmic reticulum. We can call that the ER. It helps with the assembly of both proteins and lipids. Remember, lipids were fats. And there are two types of endoplasmic reticulum. We have the rough ER and the smooth ER. The only difference is the rough has ribosomes making it look bumpy and rough. Then we have the Golgi apparatus. The Golgi modifies, sorts, and packages proteins and lipids for storage and transport out of the cell. You can kind of think about this like the UPS factory or Amazon, how they package everything up, they get it ready, and then ship it off to where it goes. So that's the Golgi. Then we have the mitochondria, and the mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. They actually supply all the energy to the cell in this chemical called ATP. And so when food gets broken down, they make ATP, which supplies the cell with energy. Remember that mitochondria are the powerhouses. They supply all the energy for the cells. Then we have these things called lysosomes, and lysosomes contain enzymes to break down and recycle materials. You can kind of think about it like Lysol. Lysol like breaks apart bacteria, right? You spray it on something and you kill it. Well, lysosomes do the same thing. They break down materials and recycle it. To lyse something means to break apart. So lysosomes contain enzymes to break down and recycle materials. Then we have these things called vacuoles and vesicles. And what those do is they're actually little sacs that store materials, okay? And plant cells have a huge vacuole, we call it the central vacuole, right in the middle of the cell that stores water for the plant because it can't just get up and get a drink when it gets thirsty. So it actually stores water in this big vacuole in the middle of the plant cell. Okay, we have these things called centrioles, and they're found in structures called centrosomes, and all they do is help to organize cell division. Now, centrioles are not found in plant cells. Okay, now plant cells also have a couple structures that animal cells do not. They have a cell wall, and the cell wall supports and surrounds the outside of the plant cell. And plant cells still have a cell membrane, they just have the cell wall on the outside. And you can kind of think of it as if you bite a vegetable like a carrot or something, you hear that crunch, that crispness. That's because it has those cell walls. Okay. Then we have chloroplasts. Chloroplast is where photosynthesis takes place, converting solar energy to chemical energy. And then we have the central vacuole, which is, like I already brought this up, but the big vacuole in the middle of the plant cell that stores large amounts of water. So I like to say that plant cells have the 3 C's. They have the cell wall, the chloroplasts, and the central vacuole. Okay, and then basically everything else is found in both except for the centrosomes, and those are centrosomes and centrioles. Those help with cell division in animal cells. Everything else is the same for both plants and animals. Okay, so all cells contain the following: nucleus, vacuoles, vesicles, lysosomes, cytoskeleton, ribosomes, the ER, both rough and smooth, the Golgi apparatus, mitochondria, cell membrane, and cytoplasm. Only animal cells contain those centrioles, and then only plant cells contain chloroplasts, cell wall, and a huge central vacuole. So that is basically it for our cell structures. You are going to make a cell organelle study chart. I've already gone through and listed all the organelles. You're going to tell me if it's in plants or animals or both. And then you're going to fill in the function of each of the organelles to help you study for your midterm exam and your EOC. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video.